we are constantly being marketed to, watching ads, hearing stuff on the radio, seeing stuff on our phones. And a lot of it is just overpriced stuff that we don't need. So in this video, I wanted to share some of the things that I've either bought myself or I see a lot of other people buy. They are expensive things, they are very common, and you can do something that is a lot cheaper for pretty much the exact same thing. So stick around till the end because the last few are a little weird, but hopefully you'll agree with me. So I guess we'll get the hate comments going right off the bat. The first one is gonna be purebred dogs. I personally don't have a dog, and that's for my own reasons, but I don't see the value in spending, you know, $2,000 or $3,000 for a purebred dog when there are thousands of dogs in shelters in need of a home. Now, obviously there are pros and cons to each of these, and I just personally don't think you should spend that much money on a pet, especially when there are other options that are a lot cheaper and they're in need of shelters, you know, so they don't get, you know, put down. Honestly, that is my opinion, but every situation is obviously different. Headphones. So I've had AirPods before, and I've had the $40 knockoff version, and to me there was about like a 5 to 10% difference. Both of them worked really well. I've also had Beats headphones, and I've had these Wise headphones which were about like $50, and honestly these are almost the exact same things as the Beats were. Like those were really nice, but you can have another option that's not $300, and it's pretty much the same thing. It might have a, you know, 5 or 10% difference, but it just doesn't have the name that goes along with it. Kitchen appliances. I've seen so many people buy on impulse or for Christmas or whatever a kitchen appliance that usually has one use, maybe a juicer, maybe a bread machine or a pasta maker. And I would say 80 to 90% of the time they use that $300 or that $100 thing, you know, about a dozen times, and then it sits on a shelf for weeks, months, years, until eventually they throw it away or donate it or something. So just being very cautious before you dive into a hobby or something you think you're gonna do for a long time, but you only do for a little bit when there's a very expensive startup cost. By the way, if you're new to my channel and you wanna see more videos, don't forget to subscribe. Name brand stuff, honestly, all of it. This includes food. A lot of the time, the name brand and the store brand taste like, again, almost the exact same. There might be a 5 or 10% difference. Sometimes it's better to have the store brand, but a lot of times we'll overpay for a bag. We'll spend $500 on a bag or a shirt or $300 shoes. Anything where you're spending money for the name, the logo to show off instead of actually for the product itself. A lot of times this would happen with phones, it can happen with cars, it can happen with anything where you buy the name instead of the product. Now, sometimes I do have specific brands that I only buy that thing, but it's not because of the brand name, it is because of the product itself. I have found that I really like Google Pixels. I stick with them because they are cheaper. The battery lasts really long for me. The camera is pretty decent, and I don't like Apple. And I guess this leads me well into the sponsor of this video, Cutz. I only wear Cutz shirts because, again, they fit really well. It's a very minimalist approach where all of my wardrobe goes with everything else, and I really like that about these shirts. They are a little bit more expensive, but you're not paying for the logo. In fact, they have no logos on them, which I really like. You're paying because it's a quality piece of clothing that actually fits you really well. At least that's why I pay for it. If you guys want to check out Cutz, you can use the link in the description for 15% off. And again, thank you to Cutz for sponsoring this video. Whata. It is shockingly common to spend $1.50, $2, $1 on a single bottle of water when you can get that same water from your tap or from a filtration system, or buy it in bulk and spend 10 cents on it instead of $1.50. I just invested the 20 bucks and got a big container that I always fill with water, so I never have to stop at a store and get gouged for something that is relatively cheap. And while that is a small thing, I think it is grossly overpriced. The newest phones. When the newest thing comes out and everybody is getting the new phone, the new piece of tech, whatever it is, it's very hard to not jump on that bandwagon. But a lot of times you're spending $1,000, $800, $1,200 on something that's like, what, 5% better. It has a little bit of a better camera, maybe more pixels, maybe, you know, it folds in half or something like that. It's pretty much the exact same thing. Even though this is really simple, I just try to make sure that every phone I have, every piece of tech that I have, I just use it until it like actually doesn't work anymore, instead of just upgrading for something slightly better, slightly better, slightly better. It just seems like a vicious cycle that a lot of people get caught in. cable TV. The average price of cable is around 75 bucks a month. And one of the main things I don't like about it, besides the cost, which I think is really high when you compare that, you know, to Netflix or HBO or something like that, where it's like $10 a month, is that you have to watch an insane amount of ads. So you want to watch a movie that's an hour and a half long, might take 2.5, 3 hours to watch that stupid movie. Plus you saw a ton of ads. So it's just a big time suck. Plus it's pretty expensive. I would rather have that, you know, $750, $1,000 a year to spend on something else. A degree in, I don't know. I know so many people who have gone to school for 4 years. They weren't quite sure what they were going for, or they just like started going for something and changed their mind later on, went for something else, or stuck with it and then just didn't use it afterwards. Sometimes school can be a great idea, but for a lot of people, especially when you're in your early 20s and you have no idea what you want to do with your life, maybe try to figure that out before you go and spend 4 years of your life not earning money, getting into debt, and spending, you know, $50,000 or $100,000 for this degree that you're only like 50% sure you're actually going to use. Drinking, especially drinking out. Now, I only drink maybe a couple times a month, honestly. It's very common for people to buy, you know, a shot of something that might be $8 when they could buy the entire bottle of it, you know, for 25 bucks. I don't know, it's just like grossly overpriced. And I know it's where a lot of restaurants make their money, but for me, that's something that I just generally don't do. Is that I don't want to double the price of my meal. I'd rather have more food than I would like this much wine. Weddings. Now, again, this is probably where the hate's gonna start coming in. I was married a couple years ago, still am married, and our wedding was like a couple $1,000s. I don't remember a lot of it. Like most people don't remember most of their weddings because things are so crazy. A lot of the times you're just spending that for the guests so that they can eat really good food and party and drink and all that type of stuff. But the average price for a wedding in the US is around $35,000. I just don't think that's a great way to start a marriage, especially if you can't afford that and you're getting into debt. Then you're gonna have financial issues later on, and that's one of the most common reasons for divorce. It's just this whole thing, like if you can afford it, great, but if it's really gonna set you back and make your whole life more stressful for the next 5 or 10 years, I don't know if that's a great decision. That's what I got. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe, and I'll see you next week.